I've played Pokemon Go before. It's never been quite that intense. What was that?
Yeah, that's the aspirational part of the product roadmap right there.
Okay.
Raids are coming, but not today.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to cover a lot of ground here in 25 minutes. But I first want to ask, in the audience here, can I just get a show of hands? Who here has played Pokemon Go? Wow. Okay. And can I also get secondly, who still is playing Pokemon Go? Okay, fair amount, but significantly less. And so I want to just start off by getting right into it. Obviously, huge global phenomenon, exploded, it's everywhere, and it's no secret that there's been a big drop-off. There's even headlines out there that say it's dead. And so let's just hear it right off the bat. Is Pokemon Go dead?
I don't know. Those of you playing it, is Pokemon Go dead?
No.
We're very excited about the numbers and the initial response was great. It was a crazy summer for Niantic and for the Pokemon Company. Just very humbled by the fan reactions initially, but we did not forecast what happened over the summer. So it was crazy. 6 to 8 weeks there as we got servers stabilized and that sort of thing. Rolled out more countries, which also took a little longer than we had hoped, but. We're pleased with where we are now. We have a really nice product roadmap. You may have seen some of the new features we've launched over the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
Buddy Pokemon, daily bonuses just launched 3 days ago. Nearby feature, which helps you track Pokemon, has been added. We started rolling that back out. It was in San Francisco test for about 7 weeks. We just added other parts of the US. So we're continuing to build the product, and that's really the focus. As far as the numbers go, we've publicly stated 500 million installs globally, and that was the first 2 months. So that was back on September 7th. So that data is 2 months old, but
so do you have any up-to-date data on usage?
Not specifically around the overall installs, but one of the things we did do, in addition to the new features that were released over the last 6 or 8 weeks, is we had our first in-game event. And for those of you that are familiar with kind of classic video game categories, MMOs, massively multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft, we kind of most resemble those. That's the kind of game it is. It's 24/7. You're always battling. And we had our first in-game event, which is a very common way
that was Halloween.
that you engage with players. And
all
we
right,
did that over Halloween.
We're getting into that. I want to back up first before we go too far into all the
no
new
problem.
features.
Sure.
You said that your original expectations were nowhere near what ended up happening. So can you tell me about what that was like, that initial first 6 weeks when it was going viral, your servers were crashing? What did that feel like?
Yeah. It was a crazy summer, like I mentioned before. This whole mix of emotions and things happening within the team, from excitement, exhilaration, sleep deprivation, and mostly humbled because of the fan response. As you mentioned, not what we had forecasted.
But you had to make some hard decisions. Can you talk through some of those?
We did. Yeah, no problem. The biggest thing was keeping the servers stable and also adding more countries into the rollout. We initially rolled out on July 5th in Australia and New Zealand. We then added the United States July 6th. And we had a plan to get out more countries, within a couple of weeks. But it took us a little longer than that. Okay. But I think the great thing was we had great partners. Pokemon Company and Niantic we're kind of tied at the hip, working together. The Google Cloud Platform team really were our heroes in this one. They helped us get things stabilized and help us to scale. There's a great story on our blog that you can read that shows kind of what our baseline was, what our 5x forecast was, and what actually happened. And so we give them a lot of credit.
So what were those? Just in case anyone here is not reading your blog.
Oh, okay. What was the question?
Like the story of what your expectations were versus what happened.
Yeah, I mean, basically we were off by orders of magnitude as far as the adoption of the game and how much people would be playing it, in terms of session lengths and the frequency of sessions in a given week or a given month. So with partners like that, we were able to get things stabilized. But we appreciate the fans being patient with us. We know that there was a lot of that warning screen that's got the group of Pokemon saying, thank you for your patience. We're working on it. And, we got through that 6 weeks. It wasn't easy, but we're now glad to be at a steady state and on to building, new features and adding those to the game.
So you did take a little criticism for taking away features such as nearby, which helped people identify when there was a Pokemon, 3 or 4 steps away from them. Can you talk through the decision to take that away and, how you managed to bring it back?
Yeah, that was a feature that we had to disable early in the game just because there was a lot of things happening with people trying to find Pokemon. So just to err on the side of safety, that's one of the things that's really paramount to us is making sure we're providing a fun user experience, but doing it in a safe way. So we rolled that back. There were third-party services.
It wasn't safe because people were walking into traffic?
We just wanted to be overcautious and err on the side of safety. So there were third-party services that came in and filled the gap. Unfortunately, when they started to scrape the servers, they also caused other problems. And so we had to block those. And we took a little bit of criticism on that one from the fans because, again, they wanted that functionality. But that's why we were so excited about what happened last Friday night when we started to roll Nearby out in a few other markets. And hopefully that'll continue and it'll meet that need.
Did you see a bump in usage after that?
It's still kind of, that's only 5 days ago.
Yeah, okay.
We're still measure what that response is, but we expect it to be pretty positive. We had it live in San Francisco for almost 2 months, and the fan reaction there was positive, so we expect it'll help.
Great. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about that you guys initially got some criticism for, and I don't think I'm totally clear on this, and maybe some people in the audience might be that way as well, is what you're using the data for and where opportunities that you see there, and also how you're keeping the data safe.
Yeah. So the main way that we use the data is basically for game state and player state. So if you're leveling up from level 15 to level 16, or you've captured a gym, it's really for your own personal profile so that you know where you are in the game and kind of the actions that you've had. But we've never really done anything that there was a little bit of a hiccup with the Google account services that we fixed after the 6th day. We only get Google ID and email address so we can track your account. And we're very careful. There's a thing called COPA in the US, and we use the Pokemon Trainer Club accounts, which the Pokemon Company manages, to make sure we're COPA compliant for users that are under 13. So we're being very, very careful and responsible, and of course we don't share any data with any third parties.
Do you see any opportunity there to do something with that data?
No. No. No.
All right, so talk to me about your relationship with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, which is actually apparently separate. They own the IP, is that correct?
Yeah, there's 2 separate entities. They are both, we have a commercial agreement with both companies, but they were the lead investors in our Series A round when we spun out over a year ago. So that was nice to have not just the commercial agreement to do the game, but also to have their financial backing. So they've been great investors, great partners, and it's a nice mix. In particular, our partnership with the Pokemon Company, because they make sure that we're doing things that are good for the brand. You probably know this is the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, and so we're very pleased that we could be a part of that. So they're helping to make sure that things are on brand, and then we're doing some things with the innovative technology we're doing with geospatial and location-based services, and it so far seems to be a nice marriage.
So you guys have been actually working on this for 4 years, and you have another lesser-known game called Ingress, correct? That isn't quite as popular as Pokemon Go. Could this have been a success without that IP? Yeah,
that's a great question. People joked, and in fact, the opening comment around overnight success, but it has been a long term in the making. Our CEO, John Hankey, he's kind of a serial entrepreneur. His first 2 startups were actually gaming companies. His third startup was Keyhole, which became Google Earth, and then he worked for a number of years at Google on the Geo Maps team. And at Niantic, we've been together for, almost 5 years now, and Ingress was definitely an R&D project. It helped us figure things out on the technical side, the customer support side, even on the marketing side, like how we go to market. It's a very community-oriented approach. We were very proud this summer that we're able to go to market with only owned and earned media in terms of press and social and that sort of thing. We spent $18,000 to signal boost our YouTube video for the first 24 hours and then shut it off. So we're fortunate, and that's a testament, frankly, to the IP of Pokemon, and also just to the fan reactions to the field tests that we did in the spring, and that launch trailer went out about 9 months before and got some people very excited. So we're fortunate to be in that position.
Are you looking for more IP partners? Is there going to be a Pokemon Go for, Mickey Mouse or some other kind of brand?
Well, I think first and foremost, not to keep pointing back to Ingress, but it's a marathon, not a sprint for us. Ingress is going to celebrate its 4th anniversary this coming Tuesday, November 15th. In fact, I'm going to Rome tomorrow. We have a player event on Saturday in Rome, and we'll have several thousand players there in the streets of Rome doing an event there. So it really was an important project, and we learned a lot of lessons there that then lent themselves to Pokemon Go. So yeah.
All right, give me a couple examples of lessons that you've learned from Pokemon Go.
From Pokemon Go itself, I think, first and foremost, there's a lot of expectations. The IP, the brand is very beloved. We have a lot to live up to, and we have to make sure we achieve the quality marks that the Pokemon company expects, and as importantly, what the fans expect. So that's one big lesson, is making sure that we're always very careful and thoughtful about how we communicate and what we say, and most importantly, what features are in the game to make sure they're meet that quality bar. The other lessons are just they're around scale. Ingress did help us solve a lot of things on the technical side. But we've now learned, how big things can be and how to manage that 24/7 around the world with literally tens of millions, hundreds of millions of players playing at once. And technically, some pretty tough challenges for our CTO and the team to do. But with the help of some partners, like I mentioned before, we were able to get through it. So those have been applied.
So I know there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs in this audience, a lot of possibly gaming entrepreneurs who are interested in copying this kind of success, or they want their game to go viral. What advice would you have for them?
I think the biggest thing is, it's the whole test and iterate thing, which, a lot of people are familiar with that. A lot of people do that. But we were fortunate that we had, the runway that we had with Ingress to really learn a lot of those lessons as far as how would you manage a game like this at scale. But I think the lesson there, to answer your question, is all around, test and iterate. It's okay to fail. We made many mistakes on Ingress. And, there's some
What's
things...
an example of one?
Probably one of the biggest ones was there's a capability called regional scoring, where basically the two teams, in the case of Ingress, there's two teams instead of three teams like you have in Pokemon Go. Regional scoring was something where people could actually track their progress on a city level, on a regional level, and on a country level in terms of how each team was doing. And that was something that the big lesson there was it just took us a little too long to get that feature out. So it did eventually come. It was well received. Players used it for their own kind of local battles to track what was happening. But that's the kind of functionality that you want to have sooner versus later. And so those are the kind of things we're thinking about for the Pokemon Go roadmap.
Great. And then can you just talk to me a little bit about monetization? You mentioned the Halloween thing, and I want to understand that a little bit better, because I read that you guys made $200 million in one single day on Halloween. How did you do that?
Well, we don't really focus on revenue. We've never released any public revenue stats. I know the charts are out there and people can speculate. We really are focused on user engagement. I'll say that up front. But we are fortunate enough to have two, pretty robust revenue streams. All mobile free-to-play game developers know that IAP, in-app purchase, is the main way to monetize these types of games. And our development team, working with the Pokemon company, had a great initial offering. We're really pleased in the feedback we're getting from the community that, they don't feel fleeced, or that we're doing anything that's too aggressive, like pay to win or anything like that. So we've gotten some good feedback there, and luckily that revenue stream is doing well for us. On the second side, though, the second revenue stream we have, which, again, I keep pointing back to Ingress, but there were early learnings. We actually launched Ingress without IAP, specifically because we wanted to test this secondary model, which for us is all about sponsored locations. We have these paid sponsors that get paid to get integrated into the game. And it's nice because it's a natural way to integrate them into the game board, which is basically the game map, and do it in a natural, kind of way. So some of the early partners we had on Ingress were Lawson in Japan, SoftBank Mobile in Japan, AXA Insurance was one of our big global partners. And a lot of those, partners now have come over to Pokemon Go. Lawson SoftBank Mobile was one of those initial partners. McDonald's Japan was an initial launch partner. And we just announced a new deal that just launched a couple weeks ago in the Philippines with Globe, who's a mobile carrier there. So you'll see those partnerships continue for Pokemon Go. We'll be very selective and careful about who we choose to integrate. Again, make sure it's good for the brand and a fit with Pokemon Company, as well as works for Niantic. But you'll see some more of those. And it's nice to have a couple revenue streams, just in terms of managing the business.
And can we see more sort of holiday or very, very specific, kind of time specific promotions to kind of lure some of the players that raised their hands earlier the first time, but not on the second question, back to the game and re-engage them?
Yeah, definitely. Again, some In-game events were very popular, and we did them a lot in Ingress, and we just did our first one with Pokemon Go over Halloween. We saw a 13.2% global lift in average DAUs week over week with that program, and in markets like the US, where Halloween, arguably a little more popular of a holiday,
right.
That lift was as high as 19.2%. So, those are the kind of things, again, kind of back to test and iterate. We're learning, we're kind of gauging feedback as we, from users on new features we launch, big or small, these in-game events, and, potentially even doing live events. Ingress, I mentioned going to Rome this weekend for an Ingress event. We've had some success with that as far as really building strong community in local towns and cities, and we're talking to the Pokemon company to figure out what that live event strategy would look like, and you may see some of those next year.
Yeah, and so you mentioned community, and we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Is there something different about building a community around a mobile game versus, PC gaming? People are sitting there at their computers, and there's a really strong community in that culture, but maybe it's a little bit different in mobile gaming.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's all around, how you surprise and delight your fans. I was fortunate enough to work on some amazing IP over the years at Disney and EA, including titles like The Sims, which have very broad appeal. Gender neutral for the most part, a lot of mix of different ethnicities, geographies, et cetera, that we're playing the game. But I've never seen anything with the breadth of the diversity of this. And I think the one thing that matters is just if someone's passionate, either about the gameplay mechanic, we have a lot of players that really love the capture mechanic in Pokemon Go versus the battle mechanic, or they're just fans of the IP. Or they're Ingress players that have been with us for years, and this is a new experience for them. Keeping those different sub-communities, happy and hopefully meeting their expectations is what we're trying to do. And I think, to that end, it's only month 4, and like I said, we have a long path ahead, and we view Pokemon Go as something that's going to be around for years.
And your contract with them
is
a multi-year contract, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And are you exclusive, or are you able to work with other groups?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting pitched all the time now on Pokemon Go 4X.
Right. Yeah, we've heard that there's a lot of those pitches going around. John Hankey, our CEO, has spoken since the early days of Niantic, even when we were within Google, that we had more kind of platform aspirations, that we wanted to provide this technology to other teams. We chose a gaming use case to pay off what is possible, and that was through Ingress and now with Pokemon Go. But that still is part of the company's long-term plan, and our investors know it. They're aware.
What would that look like?
It would basically be, a kind of relationship where we would provide the tech, just like we're doing for Pokemon Go, and figure out unique game designs and that sort of thing. But nothing to share or announce today.
So some of these startups in the audience might be able to license your technology to build their own AR games, or how would that work?
Long term, that would be the general model. But if they have specific questions, they can email partnerships@nianticlabs.com.
Okay, and we're actually almost out of time, but I think, and unfortunately we weren't able to do audience questions, but I think that you are going to take questions maybe on the app. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll take questions on the app afterwards. They made us shut off our phones, but if you do have questions about the game or that sort of thing, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, well, please join me in thanking Mike. This was great.
Great. Thanks, everybody.